Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4 with Third Reich Events mod preview. We are, of course, talking about the mod as we are playing it, and I'm telling you all the wonderful and great things that the mod does because it's oh so special. There we go. Got things set up in a West Front, Ost Front, Nord Front, and then the Panzer Army. Okay, national focus completed. Naval effect. Still can't do the Sudetenland yet, so we're going to go over to air innovations. This bunch of air bases added. Should be helpful. And of course this will allow us to produce more ships. And do one to there and one to there. I'm going to move them down to the bottom. Resort out. And I guess it's time to see what we can do. Oh, Iran. I'd rather give my business to Iran. And to Venezuela. Okay, the Grand Service Cross. This was a presentation award. I gave out a bunch of these. I don't know exactly to who all, but one of them was this person here, Henry Ford. Ford did a lot of good things in his life. Gave us the modern auto industry, really. That. So that part isn't bad, and of course this award is officially for his 78th birthday. It was given to him by the German government in recognition of his pioneering work in the auto industry and in making the car available to the masses. And then my question there is nothing else? And Ford's predates the National Socialist idea of the Volkswagen, basically with the Model T, was a mass ownership car. And so he definitely did that before the Volkswagen. And there's a German cover of it, Der International Jew. The International Jew. That's a book that Ford himself wrote. It is very anti-Semitic. It is one of these, and I haven't read it, but I understand it to be one of these, international conspiracies that the Jews are causing all the problems in the world kind of book. And so, and obviously it's also was translated in German and published in Germany as well. So, once the war started and everything, Ford was very much on the side of the Americans. He was definitely an American patriot, if you will, but he wasn't anti-Nazi. He was pro-Nazi, very much so. Not in the sort of American Bund sort of way, in that he wanted the Nazi Party to take over America. I don't think he wanted that, but he thought the Nazis were good for Germany and agreed with their anti-Semitism. That one of the two gentlemen there is the German ambassador and the others, maybe some other minister or other diplomat, German, giving him, see photograph, giving him the medal, pinning part of it on, and this is the thing that hangs down there. So yes, now that improves. After the in the last episode we saw the event that giving Bernays the cover of Time magazine hurt our relations with the U.S. We gain improved relations with the U.S. by just 3 points, but helps it back up a little bit. Okay, well, this is a bug. Found it here. Cool. This is a picture from a different event of, we'll get to it, of Hitler touring the West Wall. But diplomatic report: the British demand that Bernays request a mediator, not wishing to sever his government's ties with Western Europe. Bernays reluctantly accepts. The British appoint Lord Runciman. You're supposed to see a nice picture of him. Don't worry, it'll be corrected well before this ever gets released. So you're seeing me playtest this. The former Liberal cabinet member who arrived in Prague on the 3rd of August with the instructions to persuade Bernays to agree to a plan that's acceptable to the German Sudeten. So you get this now. Hitler's trying to cause a war to happen. Chamberlain, I think these two things are both correct. One, Chamberlain does not want a war with Hitler and believes a general war in the West is avoidable, and maybe a general war anywhere is avoidable. He believes that to be true. And so he believes that if you can just settle these issues, okay, Germany gets Austria, okay, they get the Sudetenland, okay, well, if they do all that, and then maybe, okay, get them the Danzig, we'll have peace. I think he truly believed that. What changed his mind about giving in was when Germany takes the rest of Bohemia and Moravia and setting up Slovakia over here, not just taking the Sudetenland, meaning he didn't live up to his promises. If he had just stuck, at least temporarily, had stuck to his promise of only taking the Sudetenland and then pushed for his war / get Danzig when the Poles refused, I think Chamberlain would have stayed out of the war until after Poland had fallen and until there was a blatant attack in the West. I really believe that. It was Hitler's, because what Hitler wanted was, first the Czechoslovakia won it, and then when he didn't get it, we'll talk about that in a bit, but he wanted a training war like Mussolini had in Abyssinia. He wanted it either against Czechoslovakia or Poland, but only them, no wider, greater war. So Hitler made the mistake of taking the rest of Czechoslovakia before he got his little war with Poland. The other thing I think is also true is Chamberlain knew that in August or whatever of 1939, Britain was not ready to go to war with Germany. He just knew that also to be a fact. I think both things were a fact. One, that it was avoidable. If you're just reasonable and make reasonable solutions, we're going to have a reasonable peace and a reasonable life. Again, both sides both sides' reasons must be something that avoids war. If Hitler goes, hey, I'm willing to negotiate, how do we want to fight this war? And you're going, no, I don't want a war. But Hitler's saying, we're going to have a war. Where do you want the war? When do you want the war? That's all Hitler's asking is where and when is the war? you're not going to negotiate him out of the war. You can maybe negotiate him in saying, okay, you have your war against Poland and Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Union. France and Britain will stay out of it. You might be able to negotiate that if presumably he, well, once he gets Poland, Czechoslovakia and the Soviet Union, that he won't decide to move west. Maybe you can negotiate with a tiger, but I don't know that you can. And obviously, it didn't work out here, and I don't think some better setup would have done it. Either we've got to be willing to go to war when you're dealing with somebody like Hitler or Stalin or whoever, and not only be willing to go to war, be prepared, but then say, hey, this is what we'll agree to. You want to push it? Then it means war and truly mean it. And the other guy has to believe you mean it. Again, I'm going back to modern politics here. And yeah, I don't like Obama's policies. I'm not talking about the man, I'm talking about the policies. I don't like them. You can say that I don't like Trump either, so don't presume that. I think I dislike Trump more than I dislike Obama. Those close. So don't presume that it's just because I don't like Obama's policies, I must not like everything about him or what he's chosen to do. But when he drew that line in the sand over use of chemical weapons in Syria and said, you shall not do so, and then once they did so, he did nothing. Now Hitler, don't mean to compare the two. They're not no comparison. Obama could say, if Russia invades Britain, we will go to war. Who's going to believe him? You're no longer going to believe him. Now, obviously, I'm going to an extreme there, a NATO member, but now, if we're not going to an extreme, looking at NATO members, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania here, and say, oh, well, Russia, if you invade them, either or the Russian army, or as the green men, meaning men in uniforms without any badges and claiming to be locals, get invaded. If you do that, we will intervene. Is Putin going to believe that that is a true, really meant statement? Or will he just think, well, if we do it fast enough, quick enough, make it a fait accompli, by the time they have the ability to react, it'll be over. If we do all that, if we do it just right, it won't happen. But Obama may mean it, and then you get the situation of the war starts that neither side wanted, okay? That is the problem. I'm not talking about whether we should have, and there's a lot of good reasons that we shouldn't have bombed Syria because they used the chemical weapons. There's good reasons to have, but you don't go and say it will be this and then don't. Either have a firm policy of, if we see any significant use of chemical weapons by any country, we will take military action against you of a significant step, or don't. You have the policy and you work it out properly. That is my complaint over it. All of the people, right, left, and center, that don't think we should be invading another Middle East country, I totally get that. But then you can't make these statements and then back down from them, and then not to think that there aren't literally world war causing level, potentially, problems from that, okay? That is a situation that, as a superpower, it's one thing if, say, modern day Belgium says something about that, and then people, well, they couldn't get any airplanes to Syria, or something like that. That we all get, that nations may have a policy and may support something or even say somebody closer, Greece can't effectively attack Syria or something. But when you're in the U.S. and you got carriers, you got to follow through it when you're so emphatic. Now, if you can just say, hey, we call on you not to do it, we hope you don't do it, we urge you not to do it, there's a lot of language to go out there and say that we are strongly against you doing it without the sort of or else in it. Okay, off modern politics, back to sort of somewhat modern politics. Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a one group of Christian, not Catholic, but one of the other Protestant groups, was very much against the Nazis, and he wrote the book Cost of Dictatorship. He eventually dies in a prison camp towards the end of the war. For a while he was protected by the Abwehr guy. I'm just blanking on him. Canaris. He was a buddy of Canaris, who was also somewhat of an anti-Nazi, but Bonhoeffer was much more of it. And so if you want, his works are very worth reading. But he was denounced as a pacifist and enemy of the state. But we gained, because of his anti-Nazi activities at this time, minus 3% to our national unity. Notice we're not going way far down, but we're not raising up there. National unity for Germany wasn't all that strong. Now we have various effects that I don't think at this time 86% of the people supported in Germany supported National Socialism. Now we don't have a German nationalist element to put in there. I would say that would be a 15 to 20% at this point. That we're sort of like, yeah, Hitler might be okay, but we're worried that he might go too far group. Okay. The Hitler Youth to Japan. Okay, a delegation of 30 HJ and Jungvolk members from across Germany visit Japan to improve relations. The delegation was led by Jungbannführer Rolf Riedecker. And that's him there. This is the counterpart to that earlier you saw in the previous episode, I think it was, of Japanese youth visiting Japan. It was sort of coordinated at basically at the same time. They were sent in each direction. This is a badge the Japanese made up for it. You can see him wearing it right there on his Hitler Youth uniform. And you can see several of them if you blew it up bigger in the picture here. Some of the Hitler Youth guys wearing it as well. So we have an opportunity to send him. It's costing us political powers. In the old game, it cost us money, sort of international travel, or we don't send him. So do we want to... Now what I'm going... Well, we're not going to cheat. Now this doesn't have a... It can go briefly negative, but we'll be back up pretty soon. So we can, which will improve our relations with Japan. If we do so. So we will do that. So off goes the HJ. 30 of them. The Japanese were surprised by one thing that I don't know that the Germans were surprised by it, but it's commented in something that I read about it. The Japanese were surprised that none of the Germans wore glasses. And it's a very interesting, I don't know, different cultural views. In Japan, I don't know that Japanese eyesight racially is any better or worse than any other race. That's not the point here. But in Japan, sort of wearing of glasses to some degree was a status symbol because it meant mostly that you knew how to read. Because if you're just a farmer or somebody like that, there were a lot of people in Japan that had, oh well, I mean, not that they weren't going to recognize a, 200 Japanese word characters, common things, bathhouse or whatever, simple road sign. But a lot of the Japanese still at this time, at least that's my understanding of it, were uneducated. They didn't routinely read. And not everyone who read needed glasses. I'm not suggesting that, but it was sort of like a you had glasses because you know how to read. You knew how to read because you had an education. So it was sort of that sort of status cycle, if you will, building up on each other. That it was sort of the thing to have glasses. Germany, on the other hand, I think had a much more widespread. I'm pretty sure most everyone knew how to read in Germany, and most everyone not just knew basically how to read, knew thoroughly how to read. And Germany, the Nazi Party, would not send a single person to Japan who needed glasses because they were the master race. The master race does not need glasses. Now, of course, you can look at Himmler. He wore glasses. There were lots of Nazis. Franz Xavier Schwartz wore glasses, just popping in my head. There were others that were Nazi big-time guys that needed to wear glasses most all the time and not just maybe sneak them on once in a while to read or something. And it was quite common for people in Germany to wear glasses. But you wouldn't send your representatives to a place like Germany that would embarrass you by needing to wear glasses. It's sort of, so that's what I'm getting at. No, I've talked about in the Japanese series that I'm also currently doing, sort of about the racism in Japan at this time, and there was, but it's sort of different. The German master race did not want to send off examples of their master race that would need glasses, and so this was sort of an interesting various cultural conflict. I'm sure the Nazis thought through good proper breeding they would eventually breed out the need to wear glasses until you're old and gray and your eyes are going bad or something, but definitely not the youth. Okay, we're going to go to extensive conscription, which will increase training time, meaning we're not just getting the cream of the crop, we're getting most everybody, so... But that will end our manpower problems. Just an interesting way that the two countries, with their various superiority complexes, viewed things. And to be able to, shall we say, understand the period and what's going on, you sort of need to have that kind of understanding. If you just look at National Socialism as nationalism and socialism as sort of a, economic political theory and a dictatorship, you're missing out a massive part of the ideology and why it was so dangerous. Not just, hey, it was nationalistic, or not just, hey, it was fascistic. It's a step beyond that. It's a complete step beyond that that makes it so dangerous. Okay, research finished for improved infantry equipment here. And we're still in 38. So we could research a couple of those there without seeing a penalty. We've got all that up. We may come back and do that, but let's just check. Yes. That will be useful. I was sort of waiting for the air innovations, but I'm not going to continue waiting much more. Well, thanks so much for watching the video. Thanks for liking the videos, of course, here on Steam, wherever. Please tell your friends, just make random posts in various forums that this channel exists and why they should watch it. I would appreciate that, of course. It would really help out the channel, the more publicity we can get for it. And of course, see you next time for more Hearts of Iron.